Okay, so before we get to your FIRE journey, you told me when you wrote into the show that you were diagnosed with breast cancer, and I'm wondering how that affected your journey, not just to FI, but to any sort of financial goals that you had, and then how it affected kind of how you view life in general.
So about the timing is, it was just this year. I'm sporting a brand new replaced set of mammaries that are no longer functional because, well, hey, my kids are grown up. It doesn't matter anymore. Yeah. So 2025, my husband and I had decided that was going to be the year that we retired. And in early January, we each talked to our employers and we both said we're leaving April 1. He actually left April 1. I won't get into the details here, but they said, what can we do to make that not happen? And the sort of TLDR of it is I'm working till the end of the year. But April 1, my husband, we had our health insurance through him. He left on April 1 rather than March 31, so we'd have health insurance through the end of April. And what do you know, April 8th, I get a breast cancer diagnosis. So we'd reached FI. We had made our FIRE plans. He had retired 8 days earlier. And I get back these test results and they're like, yeah, this thing that kept looking suspicious where we kept doing more and more imaging, it's breast cancer. And I've said it was kind of funny. It was very cinematic because I live in walking distance of my doctor's office. And so I walked back with the results in hand and it started raining. And so I'm like walking in the rain without an umbrella and like mascara pouring down my face because I'm crying in the rain. And luckily, it was very early stage, but that was a really scary period. We were also leaving for Japan 2 days later for spring break with my kids. So I got on the plane and we were about to take off when the additional pathology came in, and I was madly trying to download this thing before Wi-Fi. I didn't know if Wi-Fi would actually work as we were on our way to Japan, and trying to read the pathology to be like, just how bad is it? And so that was a very, very scary time. And I think that could have done one of two things. It could have made us say, wait a second, we need to have a job in this family because we got someone who has cancer. Now, I was still working and would be working through the end of the year, but I was the one with the cancer. It also could have made us say, you know what? We developed a plan, and that plan has contingencies for the unexpected. And this is the unexpected, but we can handle it. We're ready for it. And frankly, this is the kind of thing that wakes you up to your mortality. And I think those of us in the FI community are like memento mori. We are very aware of mortality and a big driver of why we do this. It could have scared us into my husband running back to his employer and saying, oh no, really, could I come back? And hey, they loved him. They probably would have said yes in an instant. Or it could have reinforced our plan, and it did the latter. We said, all right, this is scary. This is uncertain. We do not want to deal with this, but we're together. We're going to figure it out. And frankly, we said, you know what? Thank God my husband stopped working when he did, so that now at every doctor's appointment, he could be there with me. And when I'm dealing with stuff, he can pick up the kids and he's not going to be stressed, and he can take care of everything on the home front while I'm working and worried about health. So I think it made us feel sort of woken up to the mortality aspect of things. And frankly, this is why we do it. This is why we plan and try to get our time freedom, because we don't know how much time we're going to have. I also was thinking often and deeply about my dad during this process, because my dad was a really robust, really healthy guy, just energetic and smart and fun. And he was picking up his grandkids and swinging them all around. And then all of a sudden he wasn't, and he died of cancer. It was everywhere in his body. It was in his spine. It was in his brain. It was everywhere. And so having walked through that with him, and then having the word cancer with myself, I was like, you know what? This is it. I'm done. It reinforced the wisdom of the decision. Now, I've been very, very lucky. I will encourage you and every woman who's listening, get your mammograms every year, because I've been getting a mammogram every year for 5 years, and every year it was clear. And then this year it wasn't. And that meant this was caught really early. And after they did a double mastectomy and reconstruction, and that final pathology came back, I'm good. I don't need to have radiation, don't need to have chemo, just need to check in with the doctor in a year at this point. So I'm really lucky. Please, everyone, get your annual mammogram. Gentlemen who are listening, if there are any women in your life who you love, please encourage them to get annual mammograms, because when you catch this early, your prognosis is excellent. When you catch it later, it's a lot more challenging. But yeah, that's a little bit of a rambly way of saying it was terrifying, but it reinforced to us this is why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. And I'm really sorry that you had that diagnosis. I'm glad that it was caught early, but I am not glad that you had it at all. And I'm with you on the mammograms. I forget how old it is where insurance will actually cover it, because insurance, of course, is stupid and they won't cover it when you're a certain age, which I just think is so dumb. And I can't remember if it's 40 or 45. Do you know?
I think it's 40. And then if you have a family history of breast cancer, your doctor can sometimes push through an order for one when you're younger.
Okay. Yeah, because my mom had breast cancer, but she did some sort of test, although she said it was just a questionnaire. So I don't know how much of a test it was, but it basically wasn't genetic. This test showed. I would be curious to know if that's true, but she was diagnosed and it was actually stage 4. It was quite late. It already gone into her lymph node now. And I don't know if she was getting annual mammograms. For her, I think she probably just did whatever her insurance allowed her to do. And I know there's some insurance who are like, oh, you can get them every 3 years or every 5 years or something crazy, which is just dumb. But she had to go through all of it. Chemo, really bad chemo, the one that they call the red devil. She lost all her hair. She had a lumpectomy, but then she also did radiation. And then the radiation actually caused her breast several years later to get denser and denser and smaller. And so she had surgery to reconstruct that later, even though she didn't need to do it when she first did it. And so it was just a long, drawn out process of 7-10 years worth of just this being present in her life. Not that she had cancer that long, but just the effects of it because it was caught so late.
That's scary for her. That's scary for you. I would suspect if you tell your doctor about that, they may be able to push through an order for you to get you prior authorization to get a mammogram earlier. And are they pleasant? No. Are they as bad as people say? Also, no. It's fine. It's quick. It's quick.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I definitely always tell all my doctors, I'm like, yep, mom had it. I think one of my mom's cousins had it, but I don't know if that matters. And then my uncle had lymphoma. So I do tell people that, yeah, there's people who had cancer in my family, so probably should get checked. And then, of course, they're asking me, do you check your breasts in the shower? I'm like, no, I probably need one of those little cards that you can hang on your shower head that shows you how to do it and then also reminds you to do it. I should get one of those. Yeah, that's like an easy thing to do also for women who, if there's like a barrier to entry for mammograms, if you don't have a history and you're younger than 40, just getting this card that you can hang in your shower on how to check for lumps. There you go. That can also help you catch it earlier. This is also, sorry, super tangent, but when I was on the IVF meds, there's so many hormones. And I was on triple doses and definitely some weird stuff was happening. And guys who are listening to this, you know what? You're just going to have to bear with us here because women's body exist. There were definitely some lumps that happened in my breasts because of the hormones. And so I was freaked out. I was, oh no, did I get breast cancer because I'm trying to have a child? But my doctor was, no, this doesn't feel like anything wrong. She was like, it's not the kind of lump that I am worried about. And I was like, okay. And then it also went away. And she's like, it was probably your hormones. Your hormones will change the composition of your breasts. And your breasts are kind of lumpy because they have just a lot of stuff going on in there. And so I was like, okay.
Yeah, you've got ducts, you've got glands, you've got fat, you've got things.
It's all kinds of stuff.
The female hormones, they're a wild ride, and you've got a few more decades of that, those wild rides.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be fun. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And I guess, do you have any advice for people on how to work a contingency into their FI plan? Because I know you said we had a contingency, not specifically for cancer, but you said we made this plan. We knew there could be outlying things that could happen. And so we made contingencies, and then this diagnosis backed everything up that we did. Can you go into a little bit more specifics about what those kinds of contingency plans are?
Yeah, I think first is get your modeling in place. There are a lot of different models that you can use online. There's Bolden, which used to be New Retirement. I'm suddenly forgetting the name of the biggest, newest modeling software out there. But
Is it the one that starts with an M, like the Monte Cristo?
oh, Monte Carlo simulations is what you're thinking of.
Monte Carlo. Yes, but that's probably not what you're thinking of.
A lot of these things use Monte Carlo simulations, which I was like, Monte Carlo, that's all of that gambling. And doesn't that sound bad? But no, Monte Carlo simulations are just way to run many, many, many simulations of many, many, many different category, like combinations of market returns over time to stress test your portfolio. Sorry, Projection Lab is what I was trying to think of. So there's Projection Lab is very well respected. There's Bolden. We started on this path and wanted to do modeling before those were available. And so luckily my husband is very quant focused and very good at coding. And so he actually built our own custom modeling software. The new softwares are out there that are very inexpensive to use or sometimes even free. Now he had to spend a long time on his own building, which is you can say, here's what I think my spending is going to be like. And here is where I think that there may be lumpy spending. So that could be 20 years from now, I'm going to want to remodel my kitchen, or I know I like to get a new car every 10 years, or I think in the future I'll have daycare costs and that's going to drive up my expenses. Things like Projection Lab let you model in lumpy spending. And you can also just say, I want to have an extra chunk of money as just my anti-bag lady syndrome. I know it's there, and under no purposes for the model should I ever need to touch it, but it's there. And us, we did, you could say, very conservative modeling. When we started doing this, I said, I want to assume that our real returns are around 1%. We make 1% more than inflation. Now, anyone who knows about FIRE knows that your tax situation in early retirement is way better than your tax situation as a W-2 earner. But I was like, I want to replace 80% of our income. I want to assume that Social Security doesn't exist. And I want to assume that we get 1% real returns. And we put this in and we're like, okay, we'll retire at some point. But when you're so absolutely horrifically pessimistic, it's not going to be an early retirement. But over time, I got a little more realistic, but still with a lot of conservatism. So I would never be comfortable with the 4% rule, even though, yes, I know Bill Bengen is now saying maybe you can do the 5% rule. And there are all sorts of people who said your drawdown based on market returns, you can sometimes do more than 4, more than 5. I'm like, no. I want to be looking at 3.25. 3.5 at most. This is long story short. You asked, how do you build in contingencies? And one is, I think, just use the ready-made software that's out there. There's a lot of pressure testing. People want to get these things right because they don't want to be sued. So use Projection Lab, use Bolden to figure out where is that number, and then just build in some safety buffers around it. I just would never be comfortable pushing things to the outer limit of what someone says or what some software says you could do. So in having been very conservative in that modeling, we knew that we could sort of take hits. The moment I had an irregular mammogram, we said, okay, what if we plan to go on the marketplace plans, which were going to be relative. If you go on a high deductible plan, it was still going to be not too expensive. As soon as I got an abnormal mammogram, we said, okay, what if we want to stay on Cobra after my husband leaves his job? Cobra is going to be very expensive. And so we took basically a big chunk of money for a year's worth of Cobra payments and put it in a separate account. And we said that is only for healthcare if we need it. We have a year's runway on Cobra. And you can do Cobra up to 18 months, but we have a year's runway in Cobra. And so having that separate money set aside was very comforting. And then we quickly got to the out of pocket max for families. And luckily after that, have not had to pay for anything. But I think it's build some conservatism into your modeling. Don't build in so much that you terrify yourself into thinking you'll never be able to retire.
Yeah, that's really smart. And yeah, I'm very aware of meeting your out of pocket max. I did that, I think, in February, just paying for the IVF, just paying for the IVF meds. Like each time you do it, it's around $3,000. And so I did it like back to back in the beginning of the year. And so it was like, yep, your deductible's met. Because I think it was like $5,000. Yeah, so that was fun. Thank goodness for HSAs. Yeah, so Bolden Projection Lab, I have linked those in the past in show notes, so I'll link them again in these show notes. I definitely know which ones you're talking about. I haven't used them myself. I will say I'm one of the weird 5 people who's not that nerdy into the spreadsheets and modeling and stuff. I'm more like a super good enough. Like I'm just going to throw chunks of money into different accounts and that works. And then I work with people like David Robinson, who's been on the show several times before. He's kind of our unofficial advisor when we like need to figure something out. I'm like, would this work? How we have this set up? What do we need to change? And usually he's, yeah, this is pretty good. It's okay.
You're going in the right direction. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's because I think you mentioned like my job is obviously probably not as stressful as yours, but who knows? But right now it feels extremely stressful. There's 100 tabs open on my browser and like about 20 to-dos in my notebook and about 60 unread messages in my Slack right now. And I don't even want to know what my email looks like. And day to day, it's that every single day. And so I try really hard not to add on anything else that's going to be a little bit more stressful. And I try to be a little bit less of a perfectionist and more of a, you know what, good enough. Let's just do it this way. I used to clean my house top to bottom once a month all the time. We're not dirty, but like I've stopped doing that. Like it's a very cursory clean rather than every little surface is clean type of stuff. And yeah, so I just had to let some things go. And one of them was like trying to model everything, every single scenario of money. I'm like, it'll get us there. It's good. It's fine.
There's seasons. Yeah, no, but in terms of your work, like there are seasons for everything and you're in a really stressful work season. And so as long as you know that directionally you're going in the right path towards financial independence, you don't need to do like the hyper detailed modeling right now because you'll have time for that as you get closer to you'll have time for that as you get closer to pulling the plug on retirement. As right now, the accumulation, I mean, as long as you're maxing out your tax advantage accounts and throwing what you can into the market, into a broad-based index fund, like you're going in the right direction. So it's good that you're not adding stress to yourself on the micromanaging of a plan. You can micromanage the hell out of it when you're in your drawdown. Then you'll have the time to. But right now, it sounds like you're balancing things well. It's a tough number of Slack channels and tabs, and I don't
my God.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you're dealing with that right now.
It's horrible. It's horrible. Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I want to know how you found the FI movement and why you want to retire early, why you want to quit your jobs. And it sounds like you want to quit, like you don't want to do anything else. Is that right?
Well, I want to quit being a lawyer. Yeah. I want to never have a job where I am, you could say, beholden to other. I've spent nearly 2 decades in client service, and I am ready to set my own schedule. I am ready to make my own projects. I am ready to have a degree of autonomy that I have not had in a very long time. High-end legal client service is interesting. It's extraordinarily demanding. A few weeks ago, I took 3 red eyes in the course of 9 days because just things had to get done. And that was working part-time because I've gone part-time at this point. My Marriott app would say 100 plus nights on the road, going to trials, things like that. So my sort of why is because I want to have control over my time. That said, I do not think that you can have a satisfying life of just having beach drinks and cleaning out the sand from between your toes. I think that's great.
Have you tried it? No, I'm just kidding.
I would say know yourself. I get bored of that after a few hours, frankly. I like to be busy. I'm very task oriented. I like to accomplish things. I like to have goals. And those goals can be fun things. They're not just drudgery. But my dad was super into efficiency, and I am too. And I love working towards something that you find valuable and meaningful. I just don't want to do it for someone else anymore. And I don't want to be a lawyer anymore. It has been a wonderful ride, and I have been so extraordinarily lucky. But life has so many really, 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 really interesting things to do. And I think 18 years of being a lawyer is a long time. And now I get to spend, hopefully, the next 50 to 60 years. I'm in my mid 40s. But hey, 2 of my grandparents made it past 95 and 1 made it past 100. So 3 of the 4 made it to 95 and beyond. So I think I got some good chances. So I want to spend the next 50 to 60 years doing self-directed stuff. Now, part of that is I want to spend more time with my kids. Like I told you earlier, day 1 back from maternity leave, I left the office at 7 and I got home at 8. And until COVID hit, that was the pattern every day. I would never get home before 8 p.m. The day after my second son, the day after his first birthday, I got on a plane and went to London for a deposition. And it was just like life has been very busy. So one, I'm looking forward to being the mom who's at the sidelines of every basketball game and cheering like crazy. And I will say, like, when we go to trials, it's all consuming, but I try to carve out just a few minutes a day for like self-reflection and thought about life. And during one of those few minute periods last year, I made a What's My Rich Life? Ramit Sethi has What's Your Rich Life? And my rich life was not fancy sweaters like him and not fancy hotels like him. It was, I want to greet my kids when they come home from school and make them a snack and talk about their days. That's my rich life. And I want to have a calendar that I control. That's my rich life. So this is a long way of saying I'm not going to be a lawyer anymore. I do have projects in the works. I have my own little podcast. Eventually, I would like to write a book about the same topic as the podcast. It touches on financial independence, but it's not solely on that. It's about kind of building a life you love using a few different types of tools. And I figure from there, I'll see what other opportunities open. I've done financial counseling on a volunteer basis. So I'm like, maybe would want to do more of that. At first, ramping up the volunteer work. And then maybe seeing if I'd want to do it in the coaching capacity. Probably not, because I kind of don't want to have clients. I want to do what I want to do. I feel like I've paid my dues and can do that now. I'm very involved in our city. I'm a commissioner on our Economic Development Authority and served as the chair of it for several years. And so I want to continue the sort of municipal level involvement. And so it's a long way of saying there's so much exciting stuff in life that I would love to take those lawyer hours and replace what's in them with all these other things I want to do. And I don't fear getting bored. At work have asked if I think I'm going to get bored. I'm like, no effing way. There is so much to do in this world.
Whenever you talk to retirees, whether they're early or not, one of the first things a lot of them say is, I don't know how I fit a job into my life. I'm so busy. How did I do this? And it's, you just filled it with other things than your job. And if you're intentional about what those things are before you retire too, you're going to have a great retirement. I actually have a list. It's called Things I Would Do If I Didn't Have to Freaking Work. That's what it's That's the title.
That's a great title.
Because it was made in frustration. And so it's so long. It's things like getting back into art, because as I said, I was an art historian, but before that I was also, I actually majored in like fine arts first, because I was like, I'm going to be an artist. Yeah. And my family was like, you're never going to make any money out of that. So I was like, fine, then I'll be an art historian. I'll make more money. Wait, that's not true. Anyway, but I would get back into doing that. I even tried a paint class here at one of our art. We have the Durham Art Council here, and I took a painting class there. It actually was not what I thought it was. Like the painting class was called Paint from Observation, and I thought that meant observing how you're feeling about something, or observing a literal thing, or observing like a picture or an object or something. I thought it was going to be a lot more creative and interesting. It was just still life. That's all it was. And still lives are not my thing. Like my grandmother painted still lives and she was really good at it. I don't like still lives. I also couldn't really see it. It was like 8 feet from my easel and I was like squinting, trying to see stuff. And I did not like it, but I will try stuff like that again. But anyway, the list has 20 things on it. And if you make a list like that, you just keep adding to it. And as you work and you think of things like, oh, I can't do this thing because of work, add it to the list. And then there you go. Once you retire, that's your list. That's what you get to do. And of course, like you probably need to figure out which one to do first and how to organize it and stuff, but that's not that hard.
Well, I think it's great that you actually started to do something on your list. Like you gave it a shot, you carved out some time. And yeah, that wasn't for you, but there probably is another class that it's more like what you were hoping for.
Oh, yeah. They have hundreds. Yeah, they have tons. I think I just chose the wrong one.
And two, I think it's interesting because I've heard people in two camps and they say, one, you have to retire to something. You have to know what you're going to do. Otherwise, you're never going to be satisfied. Just getting rid of a negative won't satisfy you. And then the other camp is, I'm very busy right now, so I can't actually do these things. It's not that I don't want to. It's not that I'm not being good about my time. It's like, I have a job and freaking kids and animals and responsibilities. I think doing what you're doing, which is develop the list, develop the thoughts, and then dip your toe into it. I think that's a nice middle ground because you can't know for sure if you're going to love doing something full time if you haven't had a chance to do it full time, and that's fine. But it also, I think people can put too much pressure on themselves to know exactly what they're going to do when they retire. I also think that people need to think about, there is actually research that shows we gain more happiness from removing a negative than from adding a positive. And so people who say you won't be happier just by removing a job that you hate, I'm like, actually, I think science
says differently.
Like removing that negative is going to be great. Now, you'll want to fill the time with something that feels meaningful, sure, but don't put so much pressure on yourself to know exactly. Just like you're doing, do the ideation, the thinking about possibilities, and then know that things will develop. Once you start to pursue one path or another, doors start to open, and we can't perfectly predict or even probably crummily predict what that's going to be. So yeah, you have limited time. Come up with some ideas, test out one or two if you have the time, but don't put so much pressure on yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree. Definitely. Okay, so we are about an hour and a half in.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, I know, right? This is what I mean. Like, I can talk to people for so long. I love it. And I would love to know before we sign off what some of your current, like today, struggles, challenges, and what some of your current wins have been.
Yeah, current struggles or challenges. I think one of the current struggles is just like, I've gone part-time, like as of August 1st. We're taping this in late September. So as of August 1st, I've gone part-time. And like I said, when I told my firm in January, I'm going to be leaving in April, they said, we have a lot of work that needs to get done. What can we do to make this not happen? So part of the negotiation was work full-time through the end of July and then a very part-time schedule. I am loving this part-time. In job interviews, they're like, what's your greatest strength? What's your greatest weakness? You're like, my greatest weakness is also my greatest strength. That sort of bullshit. But I'm going to give you something that sounds like it's two sides of a coin. It's both the struggle and it's the win. The win is going part-time. I had thought I wanted to have a 100% to 0% like trajectory on my career. I thought I want to be doing this full-time and then turn off the spigot instantly. And like in my mind, that was how it was going to be. I had my calendar printed out with the number of workdays left when I thought I was leaving April 1. And then I had to reprint it and go through the end of the year. And like, I was like, oh my goodness, am I really mentally ready for this? But going part-time has been a wonderful thing. It's been a great mental step down. And so one of the biggest wins is I'm loving this new part-time schedule. I'm loving the chance to really start to try out spending more time on the things that I said I'd want to do and start to test them where I'm still bringing in an income, frankly, where we can still save a lot. We're covering our costs and then some. So I like the sort of the gentle mental step down in terms of both the work itself and the income, because my husband stopped working in April and now I'm stepping down. So I think emotionally, there's something very nice about that gentle step down. Work-wise, there's something nice about the gentle step down and having the time now to start exploring things more. So that's a win. My struggle is, as someone who has historically been in a very perfection-focused career and very time-intensive career and very productivity-oriented career, my mind is wired to be like, get things done, get things done, get things done. So I'm trying to get so many fun things done all at once, which sounds like it's such a silly complaint, but I'm being very hard on myself about not getting enough done in this new flexible schedule. And so I think that's going to be a process. Yesterday, I taped 2 podcast episodes and wrote a newsletter and picked up my husband from the airport because he was coming back from Italy, and picked up the kids from school and took the dogs on a walk and did some house cleaning. And I was like, I don't think I got enough done. I'm like, oh, come on, just stop it.
2 podcast episodes, like that alone is a lot. Like, I feel like podcast episodes take so long.
So I think it's going to be a bit of retraining the brain. And that's why I think that this step down is good, because if I'd gone from everything to nothing all at once, that might have been like a system shock that would have been really hard to handle. So I think that this step down to part-time has been a real gift. It was unexpected. At first, I didn't want it. I set out terms that I thought were so ridiculous, the firm would be like, okay, goodbye. But they weren't. They said, okay. They said, okay, stay.
That's awesome.
So I was like, okay, I guess I'm staying.
That's the power. Yeah. And that's the power of having this in your back pocket. The FU money is just, here's what I want.
Yes.
And you thought it was crazy and they gave it to you. So,
I mean, it's an incredible feeling when you know you don't have to work anymore. The step down in stress is just, I cannot overemphasize how powerful it is. And then when you go into your employer, and we've always been in the position of being like the takers, like they offer something and we accept it and we're like, okay, I'll do this. But the power dynamic is always there, the employer and you're the employee. When you are not just, you don't have to work, but when you're actually ready to leave and you're planning to leave and they need you, that shift in power dynamic, I was blown away. I was like, am I really understanding this right? I get to set the terms that are not within the rule book. It's incredible. And you can't do that unless you really are willing to walk away. But I plan to walk away. And ultimately, unexpectedly, it turned out to be the best way, having this step down.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I hope it inspires other people who maybe are like, oh, I don't know if I can go down to part-time, or I don't know if I can do this. If you have that, if you're willing to be like, you know what, I would be willing to walk away unless I got this because I'm not living the life I want. There you go. That's your answer. I love it. Okay. Before I let you go, I'd love it if you could leave the audience with a life hack, recommendation, or learning that they can take action on.
Oh, yes. So this is totally dorky. Part of my journey that sort of relates to FI is really intentionally trying to step away from caring what people think, or even thinking that they notice what I'm doing. And like, people most of the time are not noticing and don't have opinions. And if they do, kind of who cares what they are. But it's really easy to say, and it's really, really hard to do. And I have found that reading some of the Stoic texts, like the original Stoic text, has been really helpful. And at first they're kind of dense and they're kind of boring. But if folks are willing to pick up Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, And just, it's like his private diary. It was not meant for public consumption. It was just like notes he made to himself. And he was one of the emperors of Rome. And he was one of the good emperors. Like, he was not Nero, but he was like, you see how this man who was at that point probably the most powerful person in the world had all sorts of self-doubts, but had to tell himself, like, don't care what other people think. Don't do things for the acclaim of others. Do what you know is right. And I think it really helps with our thoughts about money. And money is not a status proxy. Money is a strategic tool. And so we're working hard and we're accumulating money, but we're not doing it to impress people. And along the way, a lot of us are making some decisions that the fancy people may roll their eyes at or think, you're nuts. Why are you doing this? Or like, why in the world would you leave this incredible career? And developing the fortitude, that internal fortitude to say, I'm doing not what's impressive, but doing what's right and what's right for my family. It's that really mentally helped me the journey. So totally dorky, but Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And then on a very practical note, if you want to retire early, but you also want to like travel the world and have fun along the way, the travel hacking space, I know a lot of people think it's kind of scammy, and there are people who go to crazy lengths on this stuff and get themselves out over their skis and buy $100,000 worth of iPhones for some reason. No, not that. But like optimizing your own daily spending for the points and miles and then learning how to redeem them, it's really powerful. I'm not going to spend $50,000 a year on travel, but I'll spend 20 and I'll travel hack another 30 of it. And so if you want to see the world while you're also saving money, dipping a toe into it. I know those are two totally opposite things. One's like very philosophical, one's super practical, but I think the philosophical and the practical can go together really well.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And actually, my husband has read Meditations.
Great.
So definitely not dorky at all. And yeah, he likes the Stoic philosophy type of thing. One thing that he took away from it was that it's not up to you to guess what a person is trying to communicate to you if they don't come out right away and say it.
Yeah.
It's not up to you to know that that's what they're thinking or feeling. They have to be the ones to tell you that. And I loved that because I have a really hard time trying to guess. I'm like, does this person hate me? Does this person think I'm this? Does this person think I'm that? And mainly at work, it's really funny because it's not like that in my personal life, but at work it is. And it's mainly because I'm like, I don't want to get fired. But having that as it's really not up to you.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. And I was like, yeah, it's not my responsibility to try and guess because I'm probably going to get it wrong.
It's awesome that you took that away from it. That's really cool. That's a takeaway.
Yeah. It's a cool thing. And then travel hacking. Yeah. I'm not into doing it super deep, but I do have the travel like Capital One venture and I just do the good enough philosophy. Again, I think it could be a little philosophical if it's the good enough. We travel quite a bit and we use the miles when it makes sense, but we're not sitting there trying to like over optimize. We're not trying to over optimize, but it allows us to cover a portion of our travel, which is really nice. So like, for example, we have this, I mentioned the IVF, so that didn't work and we're doing a donor egg. And so that costs quite a bit of money out of pocket. And so I asked them the other day, I was like, can we put this on a credit card? And they were like, yeah. And if you have to split it up, go for it. And I'm like, we don't have to split it up. We're good. But we're going to put it on our miles cards so we can get all of the miles for the $20,000 we're about to pay. And I'm like, woohoo. So, that's the kind of hacking quote that I do. It's not really that much of a hack.
Megan, I joked with some friends when the medical bills for breast cancer stuff started to come in. I was like, at least I'm going to get a few sign-up bonuses on some new credit cards. So if you wanted to split it across, you could probably get like 4 sign-up bonuses on new cards by splitting that 20. I mean,
oh, that's such a good idea.
They don't have to know it's like, you're not like trying to figure out where you have room on your credit line. You're like, no, I'm trying to get like 20 points per dollar for this by splitting it across cards.
Yeah. That's smart. That's really smart. Cool. Well, yeah, we're at the end of our time. Thank you so much for being here, Kathleen. If people want to reach out to you, if they want to learn more, if they want to listen to your podcast, where can they reach you?
So my podcast is called The Reframe, like reframing the way we think about things. And if you just look on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, it's there, The Reframe. There are a few podcasts that have the same name, but I think mine pops up at the top because it has the most episodes. And then on Instagram, I do actually enjoy Instagram. I have a very healthy, happy relationship with it. I'm Kathleen at the Reframe Podcast on Instagram.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much. And we'll link those in the show notes and make sure that everybody can go there and listen to you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I really genuinely enjoyed our conversation. I think you're doing so much to let people hear the different voices of how FI comes about and the different sort of ways of thinking about it. And so I know you've got a lot on your plate. So thank you for adding this. You are an asset.
Oh, thank you so much. I would not be able to do it without my editor.
Thank you, Fritz.
So, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks, Fritz. Thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit subscribe and leave a quick rating. Also, hit up my Patreon at patreon.com/everydayfipodcast for ad-free and bonus content. I'm Megan Combs, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Fi.